Oh, ladies and gentlemen, Gungans and droids. Really special shout out to the droids today. Don't you Caddy Coneheads get offended. Today's a very important day because it's the day I like to get excited. One of my absolute favorite things about Star Wars Galaxy is yes, there's Datacrons. Yes, we're waiting on Gear 2.0 stuff and a myriad of other stuff. The primary reason I stay around is because I look forward to collecting Star Wars characters that I can't in any other game out there in the history of Star Wars. So today, you and I are going to get excited about the Dr. Aphra Legacy event, predict the requirements, and I'm going to try to get you guys excited for this character. I know there was a bit of a mixed response to the puzzle unveiling. People were obviously hyped about Hondo. I'm really hyped about Hondo. He's going to be updated in the game later on today. Tomorrow, we're going to be testing him out. I am thrilled. One of my top 10 favorite characters I've been anticipating for Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. I think the kit design's great. So looking forward to see how great he's going to be. But ultimately, what I want to do, kind of like what we did for Starkiller and many other things, is kind of predict what are the requirements going to be? Where are we heading in Star Wars Galaxies? And even though you might not know who Aphra is, because I understand you never really interact with her in video games, she's never been on the big screen, but she's very prevalent in the comics. I know there's a huge fan base that just loves her, but I'm going to make you love her because what she's going to bring to Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. Let me know down below what your speculation is. I will admit, CG has me stumped. I know it's kind of rare. But I honestly don't know where we're heading because this is supposed to be a legacy event. And my understanding of legacy events where they're supposed to be celebrating expanded universe characters, EU characters. And we saw that last year. We saw Dash Rendar, Kyle Katarn, Mara Jade, Darth Talon, and Starkiller, all EU characters. None of them officially canon, at least to my recollection right now. Here are my predictions last year. I just gotta say, for the most part, right. I think Iden was supposed to be a part of Starkiller requirements, but they added her conveniently right after Starkiller. But nonetheless, we did get Kyle Katarn, right? Iden Verso came right after Starkiller. And of course, we mentioned, I believe, Mara Jade in the video as well. But those are some really banger characters that added a variety of things to several factions. The Empire, Rebel Fighters, holy cow, the Scoundrels, and a little boost for Sith that became more appreciated with Darth Malgus. But this has me a little confused because Hondo is not an EU character. Canon, official lore, has a huge fan base. Heck, you even see him in real time on Galaxy's Edge. So I'm not sure if either one, they are working towards a new Scoundrel-based team because Hondo's a Scoundrel, Dr. Aphra is going to be a Scoundrel, and are the last three members meant to be supporting members of the team? Because if so, there's going to be really obvious choices. Or are we going to head down the path of what Starkiller did? And even though the characters aren't really a part of the team except for Mara Jade, really, for Starkiller, they all were big boosters to the variety of teams out there. I think that's probably what most people want. Correct me if I'm wrong. But let me go into, we're going to talk about both of those things. Let's talk about the first one. What if they're just building on top of a Dr. Aphra based Scoundrel team? Let me introduce you to her a little bit. By the way, she has been in other type of games out there. We talked about Force Arena this past weekend. One of my favorite card games, Star Wars Destiny, rest in peace. They shut that down in 2020. What's up them shutting down all my favorite Star Wars stuff? Force Arena, Commander, don't get me going. Battlefront, whatever. But Dr. Aphra, if I had to give her some tags, it's kind of also funny. In Star Wars Destiny, she's considered a villain, which is kind of interesting. The neutral tag, our first neutral characters, we're assuming Dr. Aphra will be neutral, but Hondo's neutral. I'm assuming Dr. Aphra's neutral. Neutral tag is kind of subjective, right? Neutral in terms of faction alignment or neutral in terms of good-evil alignment? If that's the case, Wampa should be neutral, right? Let's not get into that conversation. But if I had to guess, Dr. Aphra's probably going to have a Scoundrel and Empire tag, as well as the neutral tag, maybe Smuggler, perhaps. And the one thing I'm hoping, before we even talk about these predictions here, my ultimate hope is that at the minimum, if they aren't making a new team, I really hope. This is one reason I think you guys should get excited. Darth Vader, a nice way of putting, he's self-employed. Not unemployed, you can definitely use him aside from Datacrons, but ever since Mara Jade came into picture and they've been using a Starkiller, Vader's been, kind of out and about. I would love, at the minimum, Dr. Aphra lean into her story that she had of Darth Vader. Imagine if Dr. Aphra is like the Mara Jade for Darth Vader. That's a reason to get excited, even if you don't know about the character. And that right there is probably enough reason to go check out the comics that she's associated with. So that's kind of what I'm hoping for. But if we're building a specific team here around just Dr. Aphra, that would, again, we only have one instance of a legacy event, so we don't quite know what we're heading for here. Dr. Aphra, and I'm gonna sell you on these guys. I love droids, I love Imperial droids, and I love homicidal droids on top of that. What a great personality that I possess. But she had 2 droid companions, and this just seems too obvious, and it doesn't fit the theme of last year's Legacy event where it's just 4 random characters. Maybe they're changing it up. We don't know. We only have one indication, and sometimes they mix it up, like we see with Jabba the Hutt Galactic Legend requirements. 000 Trip. Just think of it like a dark side C-3PO. Almost kind of imagine, you know, C-3PO and Rise of Skywalker, and Babu Frick did some magic droid wizardry and made him kind of turn into a Sith droid. Think of that. Think of a C-3PO that kind of specializes in torture. One thing that's really curious about these droids here, as we're going to talk, there's one other droid. Here's another example. Like, I like to flex my Star Wars nerd. I have every single Star Wars Destiny card. That's how big of a nerd and how sad I am. But there was a fun little deck you could have done with Dr. Aphra, as well as some of her droid companions here. So imagine if we're maybe building a full entire Scandroid team with Hondo there. I don't believe Hondo had any interactions with Dr. Aphra throughout the comics. I could be wrong, but my vision is if they're making a Scandroid team, it's probably going to be like a droid hybrid type of thing. And the reason why I'm saying that too is because you kind of see this motherboard looking background that we got over here. So I have a feeling at the minimum we're going to see at least one droid in the equation here. 000 is probably the one that, if they were going to add one, probably it's going to be that one. However, there's one other droid, and that's BT here. It's a really cool story because it's technically an Imperial droid that was created by the Empire's Tarkin Initiative. And just, again, all this, if you don't have time to read comics, just look up some of this information. Just look at the little description of BT and tell me you don't want this character. If it's a droid, I love droids in Star Wars. At some point, the Target Initiative constructed the assassin droid BT-1 in one of their bases. The droid, however, get this, was revealed to be homicidal. It gets better. Wiping out everyone at the base. This guy's my style. And then self-destructing the base. At some point before his secret mission to Geonosis, it was found by Dr. Aphra, who, after, adjusting their behavior and activating it, put it under the service of Darth Vader. I mean, come on. Imagine a Darth Vader team with BT, 000, Dr. Aphra. That sounds like such a cool team. It's kind of a little wacky, but, Darth Vader, he's, Palpatine's too busy for him with Starkiller. It would be nice seeing a more identifiable Vader team. That's usually what these legacy events do. They help create a more foundational team by adding a few elements to it. For me, I'm biased. When you have Droid, Empire, Vader, Scoundrel things, you're speaking my language there. So hopefully we're going to see both of these droids. But again, I'm not sure how probable it's going to be if we're going based off last year. With Starkiller, none of the characters really had any relationship to the Ultimate Starkiller team except for one of them. Although you technically could have used Kyle Katarn and technically could have used Talon, they're not the meta identifiable team there. And now that leaves us with one more slot. So let's just say Hondo, you got BT, and you have 000. What's going to be the last one here? Well, kind of based off, I'm just going off the comics here. And again, we're a little tripped up because Hondo doesn't have really much of a relationship with Dr. Aphra. But assuming they want to create maybe like a thematic team, probably have Magna over here. Magna's kind of an interesting one. Again, started their roots in the Empire. It's such a classic story. You started in the Empire, turned rebel, man. I mean, that's the most original story possible. Nonetheless, kind of an important character, kind of like a complicated love relationship with Dr. Aphra here. So, and plus a cybernetic human. I mean, come on. I've been trying to push for cybernetics in the human race for a long time. You guys aren't keeping up. I'm trying to help you live longer and be stronger, smarter, all that other stuff. So this is one opportunity, is that you're going to have Magna. Hondo's just such an oddball. It's just freaking Hondo. I'm excited to see it, but it seems kind of a weird way to use them. I guess we're going to have to wait to see. But 2 droids, Magna, and then you have a Scoundrel droid team. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And the cool thing is, too, it kind of, I don't know about Magna. Again, neutral is, I truly think they only added the neutral tag to prepare us for a new Revan down the road. That's the only way I can describe it. They need to kind of define how they look at neutral. Is it neutral in terms of you're not aligned with any faction, per se? And then that's the case. Wampa should be neutral. Are you neutral because you're good or evil? Well, it can be complicated, like maybe Aphra or Hondo. So I'm not quite sure how they're going to work out this neutral tag in the future. But one other option is maybe they're going to go down the route they did of Starkiller, and they're not going to be really relatable, and they're not going to be in one team. I don't know which ones they're going to be because they are going to be complete oddballs. But I want to talk about a few factions. I hope they add, they're not lifter units per se, but a big boost. a Dash Rendar. Like Dash Rendar was, holy cow, that opened up a giant can of gummy worms for the Scoundrel faction out there. But for me personally, a few factions I want to see get raised. We talked about Separatists the other day. I'm assuming we're still going to find out. I mean, I'm assuming, unless it's just, again, another funny ploy with the Hunt for Red October, and that has some references inside of the Clone Wars, and we talked about Admiral Trench. I would love to see some sort of Separatist booster unit of sorts, and it could be just Trench. That could be added into the equation and lifting up the team, or maybe building upon some of these other weird, maybe Geonosian teams. We don't really see Geonosians do much. At least Grievous is kind of a solid team still. Geonosians, kind of a C-grade team at best, at least at the end game perspective, or maybe boosting up the Newt Gunray Dooku team and kind of focusing more on the leadership-based roles of the Separatist Alliance. Big area of opportunity. So we're going to wait and see. Jango Fitz the login award. We have this kind of weird Admiral Trent speculation stuff going on there. Another faction I really want to see some boost for is Night Sisters. I'm getting a little cocky here. I think we're going to see more Jedi Fallen Order or the Jedi series characters, because the next game is not Jedi Fallen Order. I want to believe we're going to get, I always forget her name. I liked her a lot. I always forget her name. The Night Sister from the Jedi Fallen Order series. You're inevitably going to see more of her, right? I'm hoping that we get a Night Sister lifting it. Because crazy fact is, even with their Datacron, the Saj Ventures Omicron, Marin's the name, right? Gary, can you pull it up? Marin, Night Sister. I'm a genius, my gosh. I'm probably like the greatest source of Star Wars intelligence here. Marin, Dathomirian Night Sister. I want to see if we get something like that. We already have the Inquisitors from Jedi Fallen Order. Why can't we get Marin into the equation here? So that's something to think about as well. But as I was saying, even at the Datacron and Omicron, for whatever reason, Night Sisters just no one's really talking about them. Yeah, they're a little bit better, but no one's really bragging about them, or they're not really changing the meta that much. They're just cheesy offensive things that you can do. Except this thing. She's a freaking nutbag with the Datacron, which I refuse to upgrade just for a Datacron. But we talked about that already. So Night Sisters, another faction. I want to alleviate some of their stresses a little bit. And you know what? I'm going to cop out here. I just want to say, I think it's going to happen. We're going to get a new Cal Kestis at some point. Is it going to be now? Hard to say. I can't tell. Obviously, they're not focusing on just video games, because there's Hondo, even though Hondo was in some VR games out there. I would love to see a Cal Kestis, and this might be that opportunity to bring him into the fold for another type of Jedi team. There's a lot of other Jedi that are not being used right now. So imagine, I don't know, Cal Kestis that, I don't know, works of Luminara, Jedi Counselor. I mean, I'm just throwing some wild ideas at there. Kit Fisto at that point. So I'm just throwing up some suggestions. I will admit, unlike Galactic Legend events or normal Legend events, where it's kind of easy to look at the stars and kind of graph out what the predictions are. Like, we kind of called a lot of the Jabba Crumbs. He said there's going to be a Leia, there's going to be a Lando, probably a Jawa. With these legacy characters, it's a little bit more of a mixed bag. One, because they usually explore characters from the EU. Hondo's kind of a new oddball in that situation there. And what I'm most excited for is, who are they going to target to boost? Is it going to be a Darth Vader? Is it just going to be creating a new Scoundrel team? Or is it going to be kind of like directing some of the focus towards some of these factions that I would say are not getting a lot of action nowadays? But you know what? One of my favorite things is talking about Star Wars with you guys. What Star Wars characters are you hoping to be collecting here in the near future? And how do you envision the Dr. Aphra team is going to be looking a few months now? I suspect probably around December is when we're going to unlock it. But hey, tomorrow, step one is we're going to learn about Hondo and see how he's shaking up the game. Really excited about him. Looks really good for a marquee character. Kind of reminds me of like a Dash Rendar type of situation. Fracture, cooldown. The guy's looking great. So see you guys tomorrow. Chat with me down below. And please don't forget, always remember, it's great to be in the Empire today.